Hello everyone, welcome to Fuse Room. I'm Alberto. This video is about FreqTube. Now, it's a two-part video. The first part is me unboxing it, so it's an unboxing video, that's how they're called. And the second part is just me playing with it. So I have music that I'm writing and we're gonna just mess it up even more with FreqTube. It's amazing. I have a lot of tube gear in here, so I just wanna get it, off my chest. I do have tube gear, mixing grade and mastering grade as well. But this thing is still worth whether you have a studio with analog gear or not. Now, it's very convenient. I don't want to say it's the same workflow as just hooking up a mastering compressor with tubes in it and just use the tubes. It's just different, but it sounds good. It's different. Whether or not it's worth your time and money, I don't know. I don't care. We're going to have fun. Let's watch what I've done and then have fun with it. So this is the box, completely untouched. I actually haven't touched it for 3 days, like 2 days, okay? So long gone are the days in which I would run to get the new toy or whatever, is happening, right off the bat, something like that. Okay, so it requires enormous amounts of strength, but it's happening. And this is a demo unit I got courtesy of Freqport. The nice, kind people at Freqport sent me this so that we can use it and learn on it. So there's plastic, there's more plastic, obviously. Protection. Always use protection. Right? Things are going on the floor in the studio, and this is it. So, all right. So this is how it presents itself. Right, FreqTube, really cool. And all right, so we should open this. Now, oftentimes when you need to open stuff, the desk is busy, like in this case. So you start throwing things around and making room where room isn't, like in this case. So let me just take a look at what we have here. This is it. All right, here we go. This is the actual box. So we got silica gel, of course. YouTube will tell you that this is a USB-C cable, obviously. And we're gonna keep it here. Funnily enough, I have a USB-C port right close to me. So, all right, I guess this is the PSU, obviously. Let's see. All right. And the international things that we do not need. We don't need, right? Right on. So everything's handled very professionally on the side here, which you can actually see. This is the PSU. Perfect. I'm gonna keep it here just because that's where it goes. And the actual FreqTube, which is completely hard glued in here. I don't want to break their protective plastic. This is, all right, this is the FreqTube I've tried in Superbooth. Here we go. Can you see it? Yes, you can. All right. So obviously the lighting and everything is meant to illuminate my sexy face and not this thing. So it looks pretty, I gotta say, it looks pretty neat in the sense that it doesn't weigh a ton. It has, there's no manual. That's hardcore. I like this. Okay. Maybe it's underneath here. I don't think it is. Because it's not here. Because this is something you can get online, right? So the form factor is actually nice because I could keep it here. I could just ever so slightly move my mouse pad. I still use a mouse pad and this is nostalgic. So I could keep this thing here and use it. And that's cool as it is. So we turn these on. And it says, after a little bit, please wait firmware 0.4.7. Okay. So this is looking pretty cool. Powering tubes, all right. That's fancy. waiting for connection, firewire 04722. Okay, these are nice glowing tubes right here. Nothing is happening. It's waiting for connection because I think there's no DAW and it's not being used in a session. So we are going to get a session ready and just plug the plugin in, which obviously because it's a plugin. And that's it. See you in 2 seconds. Okay, so we go to Freqport, we go to PC downloads and setup, we go to FreqTube 1. All right, the beta, do we venture into 1.5.4 beta? Yes. Download, and we wait for it to finish. And we leave it as is. Driver 5.45, that's the version we have at the moment. And it's been successfully installed. And now we got to restart our system to make sure that the changes we made are going to work. So we're going to restart and then we're going to see each other in like 1 nanosecond or even less. What am I talking about? And this is the end of the first part. I hope you had fun with me unboxing. Not being an unboxing expert, there's many better ones, but the second part is coming up now. We're going to do just mayhem, hell on earth, because we are gonna use it on my synthesizer tracks and stuff. There's a soundtrack that I'm writing. I actually got it commissioned. So why not waste even more time on the deadline to try the FreqTube on? It is amazing. I'm gonna show you a couple ways that I have decided they're kind of the best for my workflow. And we're gonna take it from there, just exploring the GUI. Why am I here talking? Let's do it. Let's go. Here we are, Innuendo. This is a sketch for a soundtrack that I was commissioned and I am writing it and it's kind of nice. But before we mess it up even more, let's listen to how it sounds now. It's not my fault. That's what I got requested. So anyway, I love this. I have used just a couple FreqTube here and there, but not like committed to it. I want to show you what the interface looks like, how it works, and how I actually integrated it in my workflow. One thing worth mentioning is that these devices will also pop up as a couple system tray things, or on Windows maybe it's different than Mac OS, but I just want to show you two things. So you will find a FreqTube USB audio device control panel, really good. And this has status, format, buffer settings, info, and about. And you can set the buffer size here or have a safe mode. This will give you all the information on the ASIO stuff. I think it looks to me as if you can actually have more than one FreqTube and will be ASIO 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever. So it's kind of cool. And the actual hub is a system tray application that lives on your taskbar and will show you which kind of model and track and wherever you put stuff. You can, send play states, you can have a lower latency. Just think about the fact that everything I'm doing here has the lowest buffer setting on lower latency. So we're putting a lot of stress on the whole USB busing system. My session has live virtual instruments. There is nothing printed except for the Prophet 12. Things are completely live. All of the virtual instruments, the strings, synthesizers are live. On top of that, we're using FreqTube. So that's something I wanted to say before we move on. And this, ladies and gentlemen, is what FreqTube looks like. So it's got some digital processing and some analog processing. The analog processing is the tubes. The character that the tubes give you are something that is given, it's provided by the actual unit in analog. The filters themselves, they're in digital, so you get conversion, D to A and then A to D again. The harmonics, I think the processing is digital as well. I honestly don't care much. It's just an integrated system that kind of works. You have the presets, obviously, on top, on which you can save and handle the type of overdrive or mixer, depending on what you want to have in terms of headroom or overdrive. That's kind of cool. The updates and stuff, the links, the open save, the usual stuff. And then you can color, which I think is pretty cool, the track in which you're in, which will in turn color the knobs that are assigned, because you have 8 knobs which can be assigned to different functions of this plugin. You have a primary filter that you can obviously change from 12 to 24. You have high pass, low pass, notches, higher peaks and stuff. Frequency Q gain, obviously, you can change. You can activate a plus 18 dB to overdrive the actual tubes. You have the drive function, which is from 0 to actually 12. So we're no longer at 11. We're now at 12. Parallel filter as well, which is for the dry signal. This is going in parallel, and if you want to filter the original, you can also do that. It follows exactly the same layout and format. That's pretty cool. Then you have the tubes. Now here you can only see a pair of E83CC, which is the first pair. But if I go to strings spiccato 1, right? Yes. The spiccato one have the 1287. So you can instantiate 4 instances of mono FreqTube using the 4 tubes, or you can have 2 stereo pairs, or you can have 2 mono and 1 stereo pair. You decide. But the linked part is that the first 2 tubes are E83, they got a sound, and the second pair is a 1287, they got a different sound. So I haven't chosen these randomly. The 83s are really nice on synthesizers, but on strings, more acoustic stuff and things, I really like the 87. Then you have harmonics processing, which you can alter here, and you got some red readings, which mean danger, right? We love that. You can see the harmonic distribution. It's really a neat interface, follows that kind of flat, newer thing. Then you have the analog mix, pretty explanatory, wet and dry. And you can invert phase, and you can also change the output level. Global bypass, and then hardware controls. This is where I got the most fun, right? Why? Because you can set any of the 8 knobs here to do something on the actual plugin. So for example, here I have set the filter sweep on this zebra to be the actual frequency point on 1. But then on 2, what do I have on 2? I have the analog mix right on here. On 3, I have the harmonics. And on 4, I actually don't even remember what I've said on 4. Oh, 4 is the global out, right. So it's not close to what I would like to have for 1 instance, but for 2 instances, this is kind of nice. However, there's only 1 parameter that I have been moving around, which is number 1. So now let's forget about anything else for a second and just concentrate on this zebra track. Take a look here. Now, this zebra by itself sounds like this. It's cool, but hear me out with these filters sweeping up and down. Let's try and overdrive these as well. Okay, so right off the bat, this sounds better with drive at 8, but I don't have a drive. So number 2, I would love for it to be my drive, just in case. So how do I do it? You go 2, you select it, and you move drive. As simple as that. Now drive is control 2. And if you want to disable that, you just double click on it, and these 2 will not do anything at all. But we want this. So I'm going to keep drive at 8. I'm going to play with this, the output, and I'm going to then sweep the filters. Since I'm high passing, I'm going to lose a lot of gain, right? So I then compensate with the global out. I really like this. It's convenient. And this thing is actually really hot, which is fine because it's hot, sexy hot, but also temperature hot. Now let's press play in context, and I'm going to mess it up. Let's see. I love this. It sounds awesome, but there's a couple things that I would like to have, and this is now explaining to you what kind of configuration I would like to have. For 1 and 2, like number 2, I would like, actually number 3, I would like to be Q. The gain, we're gonna just extend a little bit more, so we're gaining into the actual plugin. Into the actual tubes. Let's go here, let's press play and hear it. Without, it would be like this. So now I have the controls down, but I want to play with the frequency and Q together, and I want to be able to record this. So can we automate this part? We sure can. We just go to right and we play it. I'm going to do it in context, and off we go. And now it will follow through. You saw that it actually snapped back at its position, right? Awesome. Let's consider that I like this. I actually do like this. How do you in Nuendo handle this? Well, we could just bounce it. It's gonna have to be bounced in real time, so you could commit to the track, but I will actually do something better. I will instantiate a different track called Zebra FT, which is FreqTube. And what I have done, I want to show you, is I've created a couple groups, 2 of them. One is called FreqTube Printer S, and one is called FreqTube Printer M. One is for stereo, one is for mono. What I'm doing is I'm taking this Zebra and I'm gonna send it to the actual printer stereo here. The Zebra in cyan is the actual instrument with the FreqTube on. Now, these 2 groups aren't going anywhere. They have no destination. So what this allows me to do is to route the zebra with the FreqTube into the Zebra FT, which is printed with the actual result, right? I like to do it this way because I want to keep track of what's going on. So here I have the two tracks. Zebra FT is also armed for record. I'm going to press record. We're going to start in solo so you can hear the movements, and it's going to pass what I've done into a solid audio track. I've allowed a little bit more tail because the actual virtual instrument has a delay. So we're going from this virtual instrument into FreqTube. So everything is being FreqTubed, if that makes any sense, right? And this to me is just the workflow method that I have found to be most convenient, but that's just who I am. I like to have solid audio printed when I do these kind of movements because if I like it, I don't want to risk having differences or forgetting parts that weren't printed and things like that. One thing I want to do now is use it on drums, just for the sake of it, because I think right now it's not about the sound. I want to have you hear how this FreqTube just contributes to the musicality of your tune. Now, one thing I used to do was when I had my tubes fully used, in this case I had two instances, for stereo, so the 4 tubes were engaged, I would remove FreqTube and then open it up somewhere else. And this makes no sense because if you do that, you're gonna lose the whatever automation you've done, all the things that were there, right? So to cover this, the problem is just solved through the interface. Let's say I have FreqTube here on my drums and I want to use the A83's CCs. But let's say I go to the strings and I open another FreqTube, and now I'm using FreqTube on the 12AEX7. So this is my 4 tubes being utilized, right? Now, suppose I have a bass track or a guitar track that I want to put FreqTube on. If I do this, instantiate a third instance, I will just have no free tubes. But if I free the tubes from the drums, now they become available in the guitar track. So this is quite convenient because everything you've done in the interface, settings, automation, movements, sound design stuff, is gonna get saved and it's not lost. So it's very, very convenient and useful. I didn't do it at first, but guilty as charged, this is the way to do it. So you can have as many instances as you want. You can just only have 4 tubes used at any time, maximum, right? So let's take the drums and just play a solo part here of the drums. And these, we have no free tubes, right? So let's remove it. We don't really need it on guitars now. Here comes the pair of E83s. And what I want to have is just, I'm going to play with it probably in the interface and then find things that I would like to have on the actual controller. So I'm just gonna play with the drums and let's see what comes out of it. I really love this, although it sounds weird, right? But if you've played with tube bias, you'll hear this is really authentic. It just sounds like I'm biasing things on the tube Mojo analog units that I have. Sometimes you just get that smack of a transient, and it can be used to great effect for transients themselves. But let's keep going. can play with the harmonics a little bit more, probably, to just get the smack of the snare to be in tempo. I kind of like when it feels releasing the right pace and breathing the right way, but you hear where I'm going, right? When I'm bypassing the drums, now I have like, I don't know, it just hurts. There's no meat in the mids somehow, and I want it on, and if you keep it just enough in the dry, there's that little bit of wet signal that has been scoped by the primary filter that it's just nice. It's just that grit. It's just so good. And it's really, really good, I have to say. And to get these sample drums are benefiting so much from this treatment. It's insane, right? And it's so fine-tunable that it's not a one-trick pony. You know, you can really, really get it down to science. This is cool. I like this. What else? Let's try it on a Prophet kind of sound. Right here, this part. I have no idea how it sounds, but let's try this. Right, okay. This is my Prophet 12, ladies and gentlemen. And I'm actually gonna keep these two. Nice, okay. So I take my drums, I just free these two, and I go to my P12, save, go to inserts, and add FreqTube in here. The first two tubes are open, obviously. So we are just gonna play with this. Now I'm gonna do something different, maybe in a little bit. I just wanna see if I can, this being a synth, I wanna be able to just move it around. But first I wanna find a sweet spot for it. All right, so filter is definitely one. Oh, this has been in write mode. Okay, no, we don't want to write anything to it. Perfect. So here, right. And let's do primary filter on for sure. And so the one has to be frequency. 3, I always like Q, and 2 drive, and 4 has to be the output because that's how it is. So I liked kind of the harmonics in here. And I'm gonna try it again and see where we are. Okay, how about we keep it at around halfway through and engage the parallel here. I want more air on the very final part. So very open Q and all the way up and gaining up. It looks like a shelf, right? I want to find that spot in which there's high frequencies there. Nice, this one I like. So this will be my effectively parallel filter. Now I want to do something like halfway through here. Half is not enough, maybe 3/4. Okay, a little bit more gain, like 6. And who cares? We could do, if we free these tubes, we can use 5, 6, 7, 8 for our intents and purposes, right? This should free the 4 controls. So if we go back here, I now have 5, 6, 7, 8. So I think 7 is more like the harmonics. I'm not flipping phase. Maybe we got a more beneficial sound. Who knows? But let's do this. This is cool. Let me contextualize it with bass. And I don't know, something like pads. Is there pads in here? No, okay, drums and bass. This is quite nice. It just came up as a reverse. It sounded like a reverse effect. Plenty of possibilities for it. Definitely cool. On synthesizers, it just feeds on the meat of the synths. It's just insane. Now I want to try it on strings. So we're going to take what I had on, for example, the drums. Did we free them? Yes. Okay. Then we go to FreqTube here. We don't need to change it. We just do this. And we take the FreqTube here on the spiccato part. Reason being, I want to show you how the strings just very simply get affected by this and sound really, really good. So let's hear the part by itself first. Normal, right? Now let's try the 1287 now. Just full dry. I'm gonna try and find a sweet spot. I remember that I had it set this way and just heading a little bit towards wet just completely changed the sound. I don't know if you can hear it, but it's just a little bit, I don't want to influence you. If I say what I'm hearing, then you probably hear it. I'm not gonna say anything. I'm gonna go dry, wet, you decide. Okay, I don't know what you heard, I'm telling you what I hear. It's just a better background, which is typical of what tubes do when there's no specific processing. Now, out 2 bypassing and in with drive at 0 was just spot on. We had that little bit more sustain of the tail, but the volume was pretty much there. Now I'm gonna try and play with drive and stuff. It's better, like strings leave off this. Now I'm gonna switch 1287 with 83. You know, maybe we've got a different tone. We like one better than the other. Right off the bat, these have a little bit of a telephone frequency that I like as edge, but not on the strings. So I'm gonna go back here. If you wanna really do a fast comparison, put 2 instances on and put 83s on one instance and 1287 on the other, which I'm actually gonna do. Why am I saying stuff without doing it? So duplicate these FreqTube and we have these 2. So I'm gonna go bypass on one and then the other. Everything's set the same. Let's see where we are. Is this spring? Okay, so first the 87 and then the 83s. You heard the high note is just completely different, completely. On the 83s, it becomes a little bit nosy, and on the 87, it's actually lower. The lower parts just completely extend, and they're evil. This is nice. This is really good. Now, I'm gonna try and play with the harmonics, but I'm gonna keep the 1287, so just like them better on strings. Kind of subtle, kind of subtle. but I don't know, like the bias at 0 sounds fine. I really like this third harmonic thing, like second harmonic, whatever you want to call it. This dude here is doing all the work, the middle line. What about filtering as well? We could set up something in which, for example, I know I want a super low Q, I want a bell, and I'm sticking the frequency all the way up, and the gain is here. So I could do this, and now I have my filter here that I can pick. This could be my preset, right? This just makes it possible for me to move this a little bit and just extend over. This is nice. And I could do the same thing for this part, only at the bottom. Now I'm fully wet, so I could do 5 for frequency and same drill, 7 for gain. And so because we're here we go. This is working now for the bottom part. I don't know if you've noticed, but it's it's latching on the position. What I mean by that is that if I am moving my knob over a frequency that is a point that is very high in the leeway that it has, and my frequency point is actually low, it will not move until I catch it up. So you have to play catch with the actual value. This is actually cool because it will avoid further jumping. You know what I mean on synthesizers? Sometimes you just go, you move things around and you instantly move to the next value. Instead here, you have to first go catch it and then you can move it. It's always kind of not brutal somehow, right? I like this behavior. I honestly like that the filters are digital because they just feed into this in a very nice way, and it doesn't matter what the values say. Having these physically on the interface, man, it's just so much easier to dial this in, and you can use 2 hands on it. Absolutely. Let's see with these higher value of equalization into the tubes if we get an even better behavior from the harmonics here, which is actually 7. Shouldn't be 7. I'm moving 2 things at once. No. All right. 6 here. Do this. Boom. And the mix is actually fine. This guy here. Perfect. So I didn't know this. Can I have 2 values at the same time? Maybe. No. Okay. So it's registered as 5, but it's actually not 5. Okay. Well, I want drive on 2 and I want harmonics on 6. No, harmonics on 4, just because I think these 2 things are related and I want them here. Okay, I have set up my control surface to have different controls, Q, drive and harmonics, and then the frequency and gain, and my output on the final one here. That's just very physical. There's only one knob that isn't assigned. That's fine. I'm gonna try and make the string section fit the mix with FreqTube. If you have never worked with strings, and if you are, if you're making strings a big feature of your music, you're probably not in the spot that I usually am. I like to fit strings within my electronic context in a way that it's not too overt. I don't know, it's a French term, right? Not too obvious, not too blatant. So the sound palette has to be precise, because if you turn them down or off, you will miss that string section, the depth it gives us, but they don't have to be upfront. So I'm gonna try and use FreqTube for this specific task. Let's do it. Mission successful. This is really a matter of filtering clean and digital and getting into the 1287. I would just print this thing because again, the strings are not my main feature. So it's just the color, but wow, they add so much. Just that part, that jump between the notes is just so sexy. And the library itself is just becoming better somehow. And now mix bus. Why not? Obviously, right? So I've instantiated two FreqTube on the mix bus just so we can compare them fast. Drive it to the majority of the main controls, if that makes any sense, like drive, harmonics, mix, and out are laid down here at the bottom. I kind of like that. I don't know why, like maybe because they're at the bottom of the interface. Anyway, my first task is which sounds better on this mix, the 83s or the 1287s. Let's try without, and then I'm going to instantiate the first and then the second one we go. Drive it 2 so we have a little bit more of bite, right? Let's try it. To my super surprise, the 83s are ballsy as hell and they kind of sound nice. So I got rid of the 87s and I made a preset for my mix bus. Hear it out, before and after. I'm just gonna alternate that, then we're gonna play with different things, but this is good. Let's hear it out. This is really good, and it's just that final detail, the depth it gets, that hardware kind of does, but we have it in a compact package. Okay, let's try it again, before and after. This sounds really good. Now, it really made sense to just start tweaking it that way. I want to explain what I was doing. I found the drive and harmonics level I liked, really good. And then I went for, I already had kind of not fully 100% analog wet mix, right? So it was kind of there. I would say like 70-30. But that little bit of dry allows me to use a parallel filter in it in a little bit more of an effective way, because the primary is carving some mids, low mids. I don't even know which frequency we're on. Around 500, yeah, I kind of guessed it because it felt like the guitars were a little bit lighter. So the primary into the tubes is getting discharged, a little bit of an attenuated mid-frequency part. But the parallel filter was boosting. That could have been a possibility to boost a little bit of the highs, high mids, that gave the mix bit more detail. But it was a little bit too cheap, right? For lack of a better word. Instead, I lessened the dip in the primary, and I also went down in the dip with the highs. And now it's just so good because I don't hear somebody who's trying to push high frequencies just to make the mix a little bit more aggressive. It's balanced and the depth is there. So really good. On a mix bus, this thing is really probably worth keeping on just a preset. For stuff that is like this, guitars especially, like wow. I'm not even treating them singularly. These things have lots of effects on it, but this thing isn't mixed. This thing isn't even finished to write. It's just in a stage of composing and production. So I'm really happy about it. So it was fun. This was really fun. And this is the end of part 2 and the end of the video. I hope you had fun. I sure did. I cannot really say whether or not this will fit your budget. It is not cheap, and it was not built cheap. It's kind of expensive for what it does, but the price tag meets the quality it has. I have, as I said, mastering compressors or mixing compressors or Mojo tube things that do have tubes in them. So why would I consider something like this? Well, the workflow with the filter and the dry wet and how you print stuff is as fast as you can get it. Like, honestly, I have never printed tracks through my synthesizers that had the compressors or equalizers that use tubes. I have them in a different way. I set them up in terms of buses or maybe for recording. This to me has a very compelling workflow that pushes you to kind of commit to sounds. And oftentimes when I write songs, I find myself into thinking, wow, this part doesn't really need another track. It actually just needs a little bit more movement, whether it's a filter sweep, whether it's a little bit more of harmonic content, it really fits the bill. You can play through it because, as we said and saw, the buffer size is doable. It doesn't crash on you, or it's fairly stable. I really like that. What else is there to say? Personally, I think of it as a sound design box, but when we used it on buses or just elegantly, it's insane. If you're using virtual instruments, like what happened with the strings, well, this thing delivers because it just opens them up. I know there's tons of plugins, there's tons of things that I have, but there's something about having the two pairs of tubes and the actual controls physically there that just pushes you to build brick by brick the song. Now, if you can establish that workflow with something else, it's okay, but there's still that edge on the hardware that kind of opens up things in a way that plugins still cannot do. Obviously, there's the burden of having something on your desk, there's the heat for sure, there's the looks, maintenance, I don't know, I still haven't had it for years, but it's certainly really cool. I hope this gave you a fun overview without pushing you to just any conclusion, because I don't know what kind of music you make. How would I? You don't write me, just do it, write me. And again, I hope it makes your music sound better than it already does. It gives you ideas and things. So I'll be here. We're probably gonna cover more with that, just wrecking things up and sounds that are already kind of disturbing and weird. See you next time. Ciao.